Here are the lowercase letters. We're going to go through each one. So for the letter A, we'll start with an O form. And then we have our underturn. B is going to be a long downstroke, a reversed O form, and a stylized upstroke. Now we have the letter C, which is basically just an O form. We start at 2 o'clock and kick the bottom out to the right instead of connecting it. D, we have an O form, and then we have a long downstroke and an underturn. And we're just making sure that we're ending all our letters at the waistline. That's going to help us when we start connecting our letters. E, we're starting halfway between the waistline and the baseline to create a small loop. We go into an O form and then kick the bottom out and to the right. F is going to be the longest letter. We're starting with a stylized upstroke into an ascending loop, into a descending loop, and an upstroke. You'll notice on some of these examples, they don't quite go down to all of the guidelines, and so that's okay. You can follow that to give it more of a bounced look, or if you want, you can do it all the way to the baseline like this example. G is going to be an O form and a descending loop and an upstroke. H is a long downstroke with a compound curve. I is going to be an underturn with a dot. J, a descending loop with an upstroke and dot the J. K is a long downstroke, a reverse O form, and an angled underturn. It's going at more of an angle than an underturn is. Next is L, which is going to be ascending loop and an underturn in one. M is a downstroke, overturn, compound curve. And as needed, you can go back and fix anything if you're going too quickly. N is going to be a downstroke, and a compound curve. O is going to be an O form with a comma dot. So a comma dot's really used as a connecting letter. P is a really long downstroke, a reverse O form, and a stylized upstroke. Q is going to be an O form, a reflected descending loop, and an upstroke. R is going to be an upstroke, and a little jog here. R is considered an outlier letter, so it does not fall within the basic strokes. So we've got that upstroke that comes above the waistline, this little jog, which is different, into an underturn, which we already know. Next is going to be S. This one's going to have an upstroke, and it's also an outlier, so we're going to come down and around and up. So upstroke, down and around and up. And those outlier letters, they just take a little bit more practice because they're not using the basic strokes. Next is T. This one's going to be a long downstroke with an underturn with what's called a crossbar. Then we've got U, which is 2 underturns. V, which is going to be a compound curve. And a comma dot. Next we've got W, which is going to be an underturn, and a comma dot. And our last three letters, X is also an outlier. We start with a portion of a compound curve. You can see it doesn't go all the way up. The ends are cut off, and then we have kind of the stylized upstroke to cross it. Then we have Y, which is an underturn, and this descending loop with an upstroke. And lastly, we have Z, come down at a diagonal and across. This one's not really in the basic strokes either. Something that you're going to notice with a large brush pen are that these letters are quite large. And that's just the nature. We're using a larger tip, a larger tool, so our letters are going to be larger. And so you want to take that into consideration when you're deciding what projects to use a large brush pen on, is that you will just want to make sure that you do have enough room to complete your lettering. So using this on an A2 card is great. Anything smaller, and you're going to, unless it's a name or something short, you're probably going to run out of room with this large of a pen.